Hello Natroners, and welcome back to another episode of VFX with Natron. So today we're going to be continuing on making a pirate map. With today we sort of didn't quite finish where we were going on the last episode. I was a little worried about that. And we need to also organize things a little bit because our treasure map is going to get a little bit complex, and we need to make sure that when we start making complex node graphs that we all keep our stuff organized. We sort of did this when we were working on the puppet animation episode, but we need to also do that with this because this is going to continue on. I don't know how many episodes total this is going to be. These are not going to be super duper well, other than the last episode. These are not going to be super duper long episodes. These are supposed to be sort of short tidbit ones to sort of be bite size so that you can learn a little bit about them. We may even start taking and doing isolated bits is individual bits and then copy them and put them into our final thing so that we can see how it all assembles in parts, so we're not looking at it going, oh my gosh, I'm overwhelmed by too much info on the screen, because that can be frightening to a lot of people, and it's helpful. This is why we organize anyway. Oh yes, and besides Oi, lost track, got too tongue-tied. I blame Natron. Natron did it to me, right? No. Alright, let's look at what today's goal is going to be. Today's goal is the same as last time's goal, sort of, except for we're going to change a couple things. Alright, so we're over here in Natron. This is where we kind of left off last week. I kind of just pulled a few things around so that it looks a little bit better. As you may remember, we had a problem where it locked up on us just as we were ending because of the GLSL node. That's the thing that can happen when you're zoomed in on things in GLSL. In fact, I've decided that we're not going to even play with the GLSL node, so as much as I like the look of it, it's just, to me, it's one of those things. We can always, as nice as some things are, and they sometimes work, if you want to do it on your own, all the more power to you. It's not so bad if you want to use it as a last-minute thing, but from the standpoint of a tutorial, I don't think we really need it, and I think we can get something close enough without it, and that's how I had originally done it, and I realized I can do it. So what we're going to do is down here at the bottom, we can see this is our GLSL node. We're not going to be using that. We're going to just go back over to our blur over here, connect up to there, and then we're going to unpause this. All right, and when we unpause it, it should refresh, and then we wind up where we left off, which was with the treasure map, and we can try. I don't know. We'll get all nervous because here's the thing. For those who haven't seen a previous episode with GLSL nodes, one of the things you need to realize is that GLSL, first of all, you have to initialize the Natron engine. And that means that you need to put a node in that sort of, or open a project and put a single node in before loading anything that has it. And the problem you've run into is that if you don't initialize it, if you wait until you have this huge massive project and then you initialize it in the project, if the project hasn't caught up and the engine isn't initialized, it can throw errors, and then you have to play around and do things, and sometimes it never initializes, and it's honestly, it's one of those things that there's great advantage, but with the great power of with the great power comes the great responsibility. You've heard that before. Well, this is one of those things. You got to be very, very careful with it. And you got to play around pauses and things like that. And we're going to I don't want to deal with that today. I want to focus on getting this done. All right. So one of the things we first of all notice is that we don't actually have this put on top of our map and or map texture, which we had over here. For anybody who remembers, this is our textured background, and we need to put this over it. Let's for a second just look at this, and this is interesting. I want to get this to update so that we can see this. There we go. All right. All right. One of the things I did decide I didn't like so much is I don't like it at 1.8. It's just making it, it's nice, it's soft, but I think it might be just a smidge too soft. So we're gonna just bring this back down to like 1.5 for now. You know, you can play with this, but I found myself liking it more. It looked more like what I got out of the EWI, but just dropping this down to about 1.5. And we're just going to leave that there for now. And it just makes the dots and things just a little bit more defined, which is useful. All right, so how are we going to put this on top of the background? This is our background over here. Okay, we wrote parchment. There's our parchment. And we're going to also start organizing this, and because we want to make sure that we know what those things are. So the parchment being our background means that needs to go into a merge node. This needs to be our source, and this frame hold here was put here so that we could keep just the first frame of it, and it would stay and wouldn't have to redraw for the rest of the entire animation. So we're going to just sit here and we're going to hit an M key to add a merge node. That way the frame hold comes into the merge node in the B by default. Then we connect that up to the blur, which is the output of our treasure map. And when we put the two over one another, we're not going to see anything because it is not set the right blend mode. And the way we do this, well, is the same way you do most things. Is we're actually going to do the math to do it instead of, you know, putting it over because we don't have an alpha channel. We want to just take whatever's black. Oops, we want not hover over that so that it shows up. We want to just take this and we want to merge it so that the black things merge over the stuff in the background. And the way we do that is simple. We just take it and we say we want to multiply it, and when we multiply it, we wind up with our treasure map on top of it. And I actually, let me just look at my original, because I think I had also, I've got to find it. Where are you? Here's merger, I think. Yeah, I set this down. I wanted a little bit of the background. I thought the black was just too heavy-handed. A lot of times when you draw with an ink on top of a paper or something, if you were to hold it up to a light, you would be able to actually see through it. You wouldn't get pitch black. It won't be black. You're going to have some of the parchment coming through. So what we're going to do is just take this down a little bit. We're going to drop it down. I had it dropped it down to 0.97. So we're just going to drop this down to 0.97 like that. Doesn't look like it changed much, but if we zoom in really close, might not show up on YouTube, but you can actually see little bits of texture showing through. This parchment texture is actually coming through here. Let's just, you know, push it back up to 1. You can see it darkened there, and then when we pull it back down, we're seeing just a little bit of the background texture, and it doesn't show up much from here, but it just adds, again, detail to this. It's all about adding details to it. All right, so there we go. That's what that does. Now, we haven't organized this. We have to make sure. One of the big problems we run into is that if somebody else were to look at this, I want people to be able to say, oh, you know, not go look at this and go, what the blazes is going on here? We've got all this chaos going on. We want to sort of define this, and so we're going to put in some more backdrops quickly. So we're going to do a backdrop, and we're going to put that backdrop. And I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but let's say I put this backdrop over like this, and I decided I wanted to move it. A lot of times, anybody who's played with a backdrop may have thought that if you grab the backdrop right now, everything that's in the backdrop, if I try to reposition it, the backdrop is going to pull things around. If I hold down the control key, however, while I'm doing it, and I'm holding down control, I know the readout doesn't show it, but if you hold down the control key and grab it and drag it around, you can adjust the background without moving the actual nodes inside of it, which makes it a lot easier to reposition things. So I'm going to just position it so that this is over here, and then I'm going to pull this down like so, to about, oh, I want to get it to about here, because this is where the actual texture ends, and I don't want that solid in there. This is our source. This is what's going to this solid here is actually dictating the resolution for our backgrounds and so forth. And in fact, we're actually going to add it to the text, which is this text is our treasure map text. We're going to take that and we're going to connect it up here so that it is also fed by that source, so that if we decide that we wanted to change this for some reason, which I might do in the future, I'm actually going to merge it just below it so it works more like this. That way we can, if we ever decide, for example, I wanted to scale this all down, we could do that, and it will just make things easier. All right. So that's one way we've organized it. And why are we organizing it? All right, so what is this? This is this piece here, this backdrop here. Let's pull up that by if you double click on the top of the backdrop, it pulls it up, and we're going to change this. This, we need to define it. What are we going to call it? What is this thing? This is actually our dither pattern. So we're going to call this map. We're going to put underscore dither underscore pattern, like so. All right, and then 1, because we always should do that. It's too big. I'm going to just say map, or we'll just do, let's remove those underscores, actually, because Natron actually doesn't work. Well, it's not designed to work that way. All right, that's too much. Pattern, that'd be, it's not pattern, no. Pattern, we'll just do pat. There we go. See, there we go. I don't want it to drop down. I don't like having 2 lines for my titles. It just needs to be something so we can identify it as something. Anybody who looks at this will say, oh, it's a map dither pattern. Or they should be able to, unless they're, I don't know, a little blind, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, we're going to just pull things over a little bit, reorganize this just a little bit, get us a little more room over here. Let's just pull all this over. Boop, like that there, that there, that there, that there. Whoop. Double clicked on our duplicates. All right, so remember these, all the pink ones are duplicates, clones of the one to the right. And just to remind people exactly what was going on over here, this is actually what we did. The whole point of this was to build 3 levels of pattern. We needed to create three levels of using the checkerboard to create these lines, because in order to get a single pixel line, there's only a couple ways we could do this. One way is with checkerboard. Another way would be using an SEEXPR node. We could do the math and figure out how to get 1 pixel for every 4. But the problem was it didn't make sense to use an SEEXPR, because we wanted to get this to merge 2 different patterns. When it gets close, we wanted it to merge the 2-line pattern with between the 4-line patterns when it gets closer. That's the reason we did this, and that's what this is. All right, and those are the only 2 ways. If you try to do it another way, you're going to wind up with a weird. Well, all right. I'm not going to say there may not be other ways. There are definitely other ways. Inside of Natron, it's just more difficult. You could do it with something else, but those are the easiest 2 ways I can think of. And I think this is easier for most people to follow, and easier for me to do. Anyway, we're going to give the backdrop a color as well. Let's give this, because this is a dither pattern, let's make it like blackish, but not really. We want to make it sort of a, you know what? Yeah, we want to make it a darker gray. I want to keep it sort of dark so it shows up a little bit more. And I'm not going to worry about the text color being there. It just makes it dark. We see it, it's outlined. We can still make that out, that it's a separate pattern. All right, so the next part over here, this is where we merge these bits over here. This is our text. And these here are going to be, let's put a backdrop. Oops. I meant to hit return and I accidentally hit the key right above it. So backdrop. All right, we're going to put that there. Again, hold down the control key, sort of pull that around like that. Like that. And so, all right, so this section here is a very important section to understand because we're going to be pulling things out of this today. We're going to need to, so we need to know what this part is. But this is going to be, this is, I'm trying to think of how to describe this. This is we'll call it the masks. We'll call it text or no, pattern maps or dither pattern masks. All right. So, all right. Well, and I did path again. I don't know why I did path. All right, there we go. Dither pattern masks. Oh, boy. All right, fine. I just want that to be a single line. There we go. It's looking good. All right. So why is this a dither pattern mask? Well, the outputs of these are actually what are applying to they are defining the masks. As we can see, they define the masks that or how those dither patterns coming out of there are getting applied to the areas below. We have the one that is our bigger mask, and then we have the one that is our smaller mask, and our smaller mask is sort of actually has the texture built into it. Anyway, oh, wait a minute. No, wait a minute. Hold on. There we go. All right. Sorry, I was clicked on the wrong thing. There we go. I was like, that shouldn't be. There we go. So thin mask and thick mask for the thick pattern and the thin pattern. All right. And you know what? I think I might want to drop this down just a smidge more. I think it's just too much. I want to drop this down. This is this pattern, right? We're looking. Wait a minute. I'm not looking at the right pattern. I think I was looking at the wrong pattern. 10. Oop. Yes, this is the pattern we want. Sorry. Make sure you push this blur back up to 10. And we're going to take this blur over here down to 5. I think. So that it's just a smidge shorter. And let's just take a look at how that merges over everything. 5 is too little. Let's take it up to 7. Yep, and I actually think I want to pull in the edges of the 10 a little bit too. Let's take it in one more. 9. There we go. Or like that. So the new things are going to be 7 and 9. All right, for our map. I just think it looks better. It gets jaggedy, but it makes the text a little bit, just a smidge easier to read, and it gives us a little bit more black. This is a thinner font than I had originally started with when I originally had designed this. I had actually used a Helvetica, and it's a thicker font. Or actually, I think it was Arial. Doesn't matter. Anyway, so now that we've got that, I had mentioned last time that these two inputs here, or these two merges here, are there so that we can merge our extra bits that are going to use this pattern into it. Now, mind you, we may ultimately decide that we want to change things in the future. That is why we're isolating this. This is the mask pattern, or this is the dither pattern mask for this particular dither pattern. We may make a second dither pattern somewhere along the line. So we want to be able to That's the reason we are isolating these two things and identifying them as what they are. This is the dither pattern masks for dither pattern number 1, and this is dither pattern number 1. All right. So we can, again, make more of these and merge them. And we are actually going to do that when we get into making islands and stuff, and cool things. I'll have some ideas that I've been experimenting with. All right, but I'm keeping the text outside of it because this is a source that's feeding into it, and all the sources will go into this, but they don't, it's not actually part of the dither pattern. These are just the masks. All right. I've been dwelling on that too long, and we're probably, why do we even have this blur over here? I don't even know. We have a random blur just sitting off to the side. Whatever. We'll put this over here. We might make use of it in a bit. All right, time to do the time for us to do a roto pattern. So what we need to do is we want to, let's zoom out and look at this full screen. So I'm going over this and I'm hitting F so we can see this entire thing, and then I'm going to hit Tab. I'm going to type in Roto, and we have two options here that come up. We have Roto and we have Roto Paint. Now, we haven't really gone a whole lot into using Roto and Roto Paint before, and they're kind of in a lot of ways, people want these to do more than they can do. Sometimes when you should, I recommend a lot of people use SVGs for certain types of things, but there are times when rotos can be really useful, particularly if you want to do animation of a path. And now a roto is not something that you do for paths. Roto paints are actually the thing that you want to use for a path. The reason is that roto paints, when we pick it up, we can see the roto paint. First of all, the first thing we want to do is feed our roto paint our background source. Remember, our solid is our source. We're going to be, actually, we are going to, over here, I think we want to put a constant on this. Yes, I want a constant. All right. And the reason we want a constant is because the roto paint, I do want to keep an alpha background. And if we feed, I do believe that if we feed it the solid directly, we're using this solid is driving everything for size purposes. And let me just show that quickly, just so that people are certain they understand. Right now, if I set this to format, okay, this is, oh right, the reason it's getting resized at the end. All right, this is getting resized down here to match what's coming in off to the side over here from this off to the side, the texture at the bottom. But if we go up one, I think, or, oh, come on. Oh, it's getting resized here by this one as well. You know what? We're going to drive that as well. So this solid here sets up our size. Let's just pipe that in there. There we go. Now everything's getting dictated by the original one. And in fact, we're going to use it to dictate over here. We're going to use, it's always good to have one thing dictate where and how things are. That way, if we want to change our project size. So I changed my format. I can change this to, you know, if I change this to straight HD, or wait a minute, that's the wrong one. I wanted to do 1920. There we go. Or I mean 720. So you can see I've redefined everything so that it's 720 over here. Although it looks like one of these. That's odd. Well, I don't know why we're getting. I'm not going to worry too much. Something it is. Well, anyway, we can see it's doing it. We're just not cropping properly at the end. It's minor. I just wanted to point out that that's a good thing we should do. We should always do that. And I had done that over here for this SE noise last week, but it got missed. Anyway, let's go back to default, which is going to be the project's default settings, which should resize this, and then everything should update momentarily, but has not for some reason. Okay. Let's disconnect our source here. Sometimes I've found that SE noise does not properly update unless you disconnect it and reconnect its source. So if you have SE noises, just make sure you disconnect them and then reconnect them. You just have to do the first one in the group to get it. Oh, there's why. This SE noise over here is not being driven by a source. Anyway, I'm not going to get into all that. We should probably do that, but what we do is go over here, connect that to there. Make sure this is... No, that's not good. Nope, not going to do it. We'd have to add some more in here. Anyway, just saying, for organizational purposes, you might want to put a constant if you want to resize everything uniformly. We're going to skip that for right now. So back to our Roto paint. All right, so we have this Roto paint. We have this constant going into it. The reason we have this constant is we want to have an alpha channel that is transparent. And if we go back, if we look over here, a solid doesn't have an actual alpha channel. If I go right now to and enable this checkerboard, we can see we are seeing a checkerboard behind this. But if we go back here, we are not. So that is the reason we have that constant there, is it allows this Roto paint to exist on top of it with have a transparent background coming through it. So it will composite on top. All right, so we want to draw a path around our treasure map. All right, so we want to, if we double click this, this pulls up this the treasure map. Let's hit F to fit it, and we can see all these tools over here. And by default, this a Roto paint defaults to having a layer and a default brush. The default brush, if you delete it when you start painting a new brush, it can get wonky. It's one of those things I don't recommend. Deleting brushes can really be a pain in the rumpus, so be careful. This is a sketchy, testy little thing. Sometimes you might have to delete the overall thing. But you can see right now we have this pencil over here, and that's one of the big things. Actually, let me, before we continue on, just talk about the differences between a Roto and a Roto brush, because we're going to use a Roto in a little while as well. We're going to do a Roto over here. We've used a Roto when we did, when we masked off for masking off bits. But one of the big things you'll notice is here on the left-hand side, the Roto goes down and it has a pencil and a pen. All right, it's got a whole list of little things. We can do a solid paint brush tool, but if we go over to the Roto paint, you'll notice it also has a cloning tool, a blur tool, a gamma tool, or I think it's a gamma tool. Yes, you can do brightening and all these other things. But it also has better control over doing paint effects on things, like scaling your paint strokes over time works better, I've found. This is my personal experience. Others may have had better experience, but I always find that if I want to do something that involves doing a stroke and I want that stroke to draw over time, then I want to use a Roto paint. All right, and you can try it with the other one, but you're working on your own. This is just personal opinion. All right, so back here. So how are we going to draw this? Well, what I'm going to do is, actually, we're going to use the pencil tool. And the reason I like the pencil tool versus the paint tool is that I want to draw something that has a curve to it. I want it to curve, and I want the stroke to draw along the curve. And so I'm going to click here, and then I'm going to click out here somewhere, like so. And then I'm going to come around. I want to come around my treasure map, and then I want it to sort of swirl up like this. And I want it to swirl down like this. And then I want it to swirl sort of back this way. And then we're going to go up here to like there, about here, and we're going to pull it out so that it curves into this and eases into this point. And that's pretty much going to be it. I think that's what I want, so I'm going to hit return, and then it takes it. And so we need to make sure we're on our thing, and we can see, there we go, here's a pencil, here's a brush. We're going to remove that brush because we don't need it at the moment. All right, so now we want to go to the stroke for our brush or for a pencil, and we're not seeing it. And the reason we're not seeing it is because we're not actually looking at our brush. We drew it on top, we drew our rotoscope or our roto on top of a map, but we aren't actually seeing the stroke for it because it isn't actually merged into our image at this point. So for right now, what we're going to do is take this A input, whoops, I'll move this a little bit. Oh, well, that's fine. We can take our A input, and it's going to be tricky to get this because it's dangling a little bit. You know what? Just to make this easier, I'm going to put a dot node up here, and then I'm going to just grab this really close up so that I got the A, and I'm going to connect it up there. And then I'm going to get it to snap like so, and then I'm going to take that and connect it up like that, and we should get the beginnings of our roto stroke. And we can see the stroke. Now it's not showing, or we're not seeing it very well because we're seeing a curve go across it at this point. If we hide our overlays, we can see the stroke, and we can see that right now it's just showing our bigger dither pattern. All right, and then what we want to do down here is basically do the same thing. We could drive it from both of these from the same point. The problem we run into, of course, is that now it has the thickness of our of both of them. The thickness of both of these is the same as it's the same because we're blurring it. In fact, we have a problem here. This blur is happening before the merge, whereas this blur is happening after. Now, this can be a pro in a clone. Why would it, having it before means that the blur will only affect the text, all right? So this text is coming down into here, and we wind up blurring the text this much on this side, and then, oh, excuse me, see, all right, excuse me. This one we can see is only applying to the text, but this blur is applying to both the text and to the stroke. So if we move this blur to the other side, it would only apply to this text, and then we'd have to apply a separate blur to the stroke. Now the question is it worth it? I think for the time being, let's move our blurs both to the opposite side. So we're going to take this blur here, connect it, or this merge, and connect it up over here, and we're going to reverse this. We're going to take the blur, put it there, and take this mask and connect it up there. That way, now we can hopefully, if we do this, we can see there's our stroke, it's after the blur, and there's our stroke after the blur. And that way, they both get applied. The thing we do not want it to do, though, is we do not want to do the erodes before. And the reason we don't want to do the erodes before, or we don't want to have these erodes happening after the merge, is because the thickness of the text is going to probably be a different thickness than that of the stroke, whereas the amount we blur away from him is probably going to be similar. We're probably going to want to keep it a similar amount away, so the blur should remain fairly constant. All right, let's see if this holds true. But this does mean we have to create some we're gonna pull this up just a little bit. We're gonna create a couple dot nodes here. Let's pull that up over here. And the reason we're doing this is I want to, in fact, we're going to reverse things. We're going to take this and connect this up there, and then take this and connect that up like that, so that the roto paint You know what? It's going to be easier to just move the roto pane. There we go. All right, so the roto pane is going this way and then down. We don't need this point there anymore. So we can see that it's coming in and it's merging above that and it's merging in above that. What we're going to do is basically we need an erode smooth going off this way, just like we did with the text. Here's the text coming in here. In fact, let's move the text down a little bit. Oh, it doesn't matter because it's got this source. Never mind. We'll keep it up here. Keep our sources up here. We're going to take and put an erode smooth in here. And we're going to put that there. We'll connect that up to that. And then connect this to there. And we'll just duplicate that. Put that there. And so this one is going to be, all right, it doesn't matter. We're going to keep it there. So this one, we had to -5. So this one, interesting. That's -5. I don't know that we want to make this one erode in. Let's take a look. Yeah, we're gonna, let's go and look at our final. Let's look at it before actually, no, we can look at it at the end. All right, so we want to pull this in, and we want to pull it in a way that this line looks thinner. So this bottom one is the thin line. In fact, to identify it, we may just label it in a way. In fact, I'm just trying to think. Let's do this. Under our node, I double-clicked on this merge node, and I'm going to put on thick. I've selected I've selected the node tab on the merged 5 node, and I've put in thick there. That way below it, it says, oh, let's do a return there because I want that on the second line. There we go. So it says merge over thick, and then this one, we're going to go to the node. We're going to go merge over, and we're going to hit return thin, and then that should help us identify those a little bit better. And we'll just pull that up so it snaps, and pull that up so it snaps, and control drag this up just a wee bit like so. There, organized nicely. All right, so now we know this is the thick line, this is the thin line. That means that this needs to be, this one, it needs to remain wider than the other one. So I'm going to just leave this erode smooth. In fact, I might just disable this. If we don't need it, why bother? Let's leave it be, and let's just try eroding in to thin this line down and see if we like it the way it is. Right, we're going to thin this out. So the way we thin it out is we just bring this up and make sure. This does not, oh, right, it's not affecting. Remember, we got to enable on the erode smooths. We have to enable the alpha channel. I want to do that to this one as well, just in case. In fact, you know what? If this one may not be the one we use, I think I want to swap these around. I think I want to put this one down there, this one over here, right? Because, and disable that and enable that one. All right, so that we can keep the one that's named properly. All right, so again, bring this back again, make sure it's alpha is enabled, and then we're going to bring this back up to like 4, and we're going to just keep bringing this up, 5, 6. That's too thin. We can see now that it's starting to become so thin that it's hard to actually read it. In fact, I don't like how it's blurring, which is probably why I had it behind, had the erode smooth coming in before the other way, is what it is. So we're going to pull this up. We're going to take this out and connect that up there. Put that like that. put that there. Take this, connect that back up like that, and there we go. All right, so the blur is now happening before, for the text, the blur is happening before the merger, so that we can isolate the blur from it, and that means that this line for the inner line, let's look at that together. All right, so this is what it looks like inside. We can see that the texture, or the text has the blur happening before it, but the erode smooth is not. And now here's what I'm noticing here. This is looking really, 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 this is surprisingly sharp, which is not what I want. I want this to be a lot softer, or a lot harder than this. And it's not. That is not what I want this to look like. I don't like the road smooth here. Let's reset everything to its defaults and disable it. Because we're going to try something different. We're going to disable that for the moment. We're going to go up to our Roto paint and change select our pencil 1 right here. All right. And when we select that, it will allow us to change our brush size. And we're going to change our brush size. It's currently set to 25. And we're going to drop this down 15, 5. Let's go up. Now, mind you, this is important to remember, because we have shrunk this down, it also means that it's thinning down the other or the erode smooth over here. I'm just debating if this is the best option. You know what? Nope. We're learning as we're going. I'm doing this different than I did before on mine. What we're going to do in here, instead of using erode smooths in here, we're going to use... we're going to just use a straight erode. Because the erode should not smooth it. It should just erode in all together. Let's try that. Because I don't want the other one... Let's see if this works better. There we go. That's much better. Okay, so the big difference is that what was happening is because this was automatically the Roto paint is a little bit smooth already because the stroke has a softness to it. We can see that the brush hardness is 0.2 as opposed to like, no, let's see, 0.2. If we bring it down, if we bring the hardness up to really high, then the erode smooth will work better, but we don't want it. We want to keep it nice and soft. So let's keep it down. In which case the erode smooth was smoothing the already smoothed path. So we were getting too much smoothing on it. So by using an erode, it's eroding everything that's already smooth, but it's eroding it together. So it's actually keeping the smoothness at its current, at what it already was. And we're winding up with a better result, which is why I think I think this is going to work better. All right, let's see if it did. Let's go back. There we go. Now we're getting a path, a nice solid path with lines around it. We're getting that textured pattern around it. I like that. We're going to live with it like that. And so what was the erode value so that it's right here. You know what? We might try taking it up nice and 5. No, 5 might be too little, too thin. Oh, what the heck? I like it. It reads from a distance, and that's important. All right, we'll keep it 5. If you don't like it, you can change it. All right, so this, the next thing we need to do before we move any further is we need to make this dashed. Now, this is a tricky thing because Natron does not have, well, there is a couple ways we could do, potentially do spacing. The first one that most people think about is this brush spacing here. And brush spacing is actually the wrong thing to do. If you do brush spacing, well, all right, let's see what happens when we mess with brush spacing. Just so we know, we'll take our brush spacing up and just keep going as far as we can. And lo and behold, we get up and we keep going. And no matter, once we pass one, you'll see that it just stops. And all we wind up with, if we actually look at the roto paint, is a bunch of dots. Doesn't matter how far past this point we go, we're just going to wind up with a bunch of dots. And that's not what we actually want. Sorry, I heard the noise off to the side. I was wondering what that was. So we're going to reset this to our default because we don't want that. That's actually how much space. That's the brush spacing of when it's drawing this line. That's actually, if you were drawing in Photoshop, it's the same type of thing. It's how many spaces, or how close the things are, the brush stroke is to the previous stroke, so or the dot that makes up the stroke, so that as it's drawing. So that's not actually line spacing or thing. What we need to actually do here is we need to put something on top of this. So how do we go about doing that? Well, we'll select our layer, and then we're going to go here and we're going to select our, we're going to select this here, the Bezier tool. And what we're going to do with the Bezier tool is, oh yes, and we also want to show our overlays so that we can see. So here for our Bezier tool, what we're going to do is we're going to actually just simply draw a pattern over this. Let's start off with something simple. We're going to start off the screen like this, and then I'm going to come in. I'm going to sort of, we may pull this first point in. I'm going to go up and zigzag. I'm just going to create a zigzag pattern. I'm going to go zig, zags like this. And I'm going to do it at a roughly even spacing. And a few of you are probably going, huh? And others are probably going, oh, I know what he's doing. At least I'm hoping some people are realizing what I'm going to do. This will become apparent very shortly. We're just going to keep doing this. Sort of try and treat it like a chainsaw. We'll do a couple over here. This is going to look a little ugly right there, so we'll go like that. And one last one. I want that last little bit there. Then I'm going to click down here, over here, and then I'm going to click on my first dot to close this shape off. All right, so I've made this sort of, kind of looks like some spiked alligator thing. Ooh, alligators. Bad. Anyway, so you're saying to yourself, huh? Why did we do that? Well, one of the things that's neat about the Roto Paint tool is that we can go over here and we have these blend methods just like we do with our merge nodes. And if I set this from over to multiply, you'll notice that as soon as we hide our overlays, hide the overlays, there we go, we wind up with our dashed pattern because the teeth from our spike is going through this. Now you're saying to yourself, wait a minute, Power Bill. That's really hard. We can see that it's really, really, really hard. You're right, it's very hard. But for this particular purpose, we don't need to worry too much about it. And we can fix this a little bit by just taking this and going to our shape and taking this feather and just upping our feather a bit. If we take our feather up to, let's see, what was our stroke softness? Our softness here, it was 0.2 at a brush size of 25. So 0.2, I think honestly this looks probably pretty good, or good enough for our purposes. Let's take a look and see if that actually looks good over here at the end. If we go back to our original, remember we're eating in on this, so it's really not going to show up all that much. It just looks like little lines going through it. And yeah, we could make this better. If you really want to go through and spend more time, you could make those go across at nice even intervals, or you could try and curve them or do whatever you want. But you know what? Most people are not going to actually see that. It just looks good enough right now. So there we go. We've created a dashed line going up. Actually, you know what I'm saying here? I'm realizing I think we have this we may have this inverted. I just want to, let me double click on this and select. Oh yes, we want to, sorry, we want to not toggle the wipe. We wanted to show our overlays. Yes, it's showing inside of it as opposed to the outside of it. All right. So what we want to do is change this back to over. And then we want to take, nope, we're going to take this, we're going to put this back to multiply. And we're going to switch the layer order. We're going to put the other one below it. Let's see if we can rearrange this. Nope, that did not work. All right, we're going to have to just add another point. Come on. Rearrange. I want the Bezier above it. There we go. Bezier back above it. Easy peasy. We're going to just go over here. If you haven't done this before, just select your path by clicking on it so the dots are visible. And we go over here and we click the plus tool right here. And we can see if we click on this, it has add points and so forth. It defaults to add points, but if you click and hold, it pulls up this menu. We want to keep it on add points. We're going to add a point here, and we're going to add a point there. And then we're going to select those 2 points like so. Nope. We won't select that point. You know what? We're just going to hit that point, and we're going to cusp it. Where is the cusp tool? One of these should be cusp. Where's the cusp? Nope, not add key. Oh, come on. Feather. I swear there was a cusp tool here. Ripple edit. Is it, do we right click? Oh, wait. I remember. I think it's here. Sorry. There we go. Cusp points tool. So we click on cusp points and we click on that point. Oh, come on. Now we've deselected it. We got to go back here. Select that. Fine. We got to select it. Draw around it. So that's highlighted. And then we cusp it. Come on. All right, there's other ways of doing it. This is why it's always good to do things the right way the first time. Let's pull this back up like that. All right, it's cusped there. We're going to select this. We're going to cusp it. Come on. There we go. If you just double click it a few times, you can see it cusps the point. And what we're going to just do here is grab this and pull this out so that it goes over the edge. Like so. Pull that back a little bit. Get it nicely spaced. Pull those around. You know what? All I really need to do is pull that up. Oh well. Live and learn. You can do it on your own. That looks pretty good. I don't like this base right here. It's a little bit too big. Doesn't matter. It's, you know, it's however big you want these to be. They'll be fine. Anyhow, so there we go. So that gets us a spacing for our dots. And we'll turn off the show hard overlays so we can see our path again. So there we go. We have our path. Now we need to animate it. All right. I'm pulling up my animation on my other one because I want to make sure I got the frames exactly where we had it on the other one. Let's go Roto Paint and believe... Where is my Roto Paint? Don't do this to me. Roto Paint, I want to... There's the strokes. All right, pencil. There we go. So, let's see. We're going to go back to the beginning. All right. So, we're going to set this to 24. And we're going to go make sure we're at the start. We're going to click out once. And we're going to set a keyframe here for... All right. So, we select our pencil. And then on our pencil, what we want to do is go to our stroke tab. And we want to, the visible portion start. We want to take the end and set a key. And then we want to, at the end, we want to set this to 0 at this point. Then what we want to do is we also want to go back to the very first frame, because sometimes this doesn't. Just verify that from 0 all the way out to 25 that you're going to be, you don't have your stroke drawing, and it's not drawing for us, so we're good to go. All right, so then what we're going to do is go out to, let me see, frame 169, and I think that's like 5 seconds. So 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 4 seconds, 5 seconds, 6 seconds, 6 seconds out. All right, so at 6 seconds out, we're going to make it 1. We're going to set the path length to 1. And all right, so what we can do is we're going to back it up. We're going to, for the time being, I don't know if this is going to draw fast here, but we're going to try it. Just look at it. This is drawing fairly rapidly. I'm going to just enable low-res preview for right now, which should hopefully speed this up a little bit more. All right, we're going to go drop it down to 4-quarter resolution. There we go. Now it's cooking. And we can see our treasure map path is animating out and around. And that gets us our path. So it's still running a little slow. Once it gets up to this point here, we're going to just rewind it and just watch through it one time. There we go. All right, we can rewind it and just hit play. And that's just a dropping in resolution. It's just a redraw thing. And there we go. That's our timing for it. That's approximately how long it should take. All right, that's fine. We're going to turn off the preview. All right, so we have our path made. Now the next thing up is going to be, we're going to do the X. We want to do an X. So an X is going to be our roto. This is why we have this roto here. In fact, I think we can probably... We might be able to use the same texture for our roto. All right, let's first double click on our roto. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to frame 0. Oh, foo. Should have probably did this before we did this. All right, it's all right. We can still deal with this. Let's find our position. Let's go all the way out here. So our position is here, approximately. We want our X to be about here. I'm gonna have it. We're gonna start it off. We'll make it about that big, like that, I would say. So okay, we're gonna go back to our first frame. By the way, always be on the first frame when you're drawing your rotos or your roto paints or otherwise. It can be a nightmare because what happens is it will create the creation point on the end or on whatever frame you are, and it will try to create the shape or have the shape pop into existence on the frame that you're on. So always, if you want it to exist the entire time, which is what you usually want it to do most of the time, always draw your rotos on the first frame. All right, so here we go. We're going back here. We're going to select this. And what we're going to do is we're going to make basically a shape that looks something like, oh, I think it was right here. This was where, whoops, I want this to be, why did that not? Hello, hello, Roto. Make sure I have the Roto selected. There we go. We got this. Oh, we want this. Oh, wait, no, I selected the wrong thing. Bezier tool. All right, make sure you have the Roto selected. Make sure it's selected, the layer selected. Let's hit here. Let's, oh, foo. All right, let's, and this is exactly what I was talking about making sure. See, we're having a problem here. It's not drawing our shape. So what I'm going to do is just delete this roto. We're going to put in a fresh roto. I don't know why Natron does that every now and then, but it does. So it's already selected. Hopefully when we click here, oh, we need to show hide our overlays because you can't draw without our overlays. That's why it probably did it. There we go. Make sure you turn on your overlays. And there we go. And I drew it in the wrong place, but that's okay. We'll just draw our X and then we'll, you know what? Our X is supposed to be over here near this swirly over here, as I recall. So I just messed that one up. I'm going to pull it over in a minute. I want to pull this down like that. I'm going to put a dot here. I'm going to do a dot here with a swirl, a dot here, a dot here, a point, a swirly, a curve. Oh, nuts. Undo that. Undo that. Let's draw that again. Pull it out. Dot. Curve. 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 This is not looking like an X. I'm looking at the points right now. Dot. Curve. And then we're going to go back to this point there. All right. Well. Hopefully we've got everything we need. Now you're saying to yourself, whoa, Bill, that doesn't look like an X. Well, I made a boo-boo at the beginning, so I kind of screwed up and decided I was going to go with it. So yes, we're going to reshape it. The key thing is we want to have a little bit of a flat point up at the top. And in order to get this sort of flat point, we're going to just pull this, have these here. So what we could do is we could pull this in, shrink this down like so, have these go off to the side like this. We could make this sort of really dynamic, sort of give it this like T-bone things going off like this, and we'll just sort of go like that. And we'll pull this down. Well, we just want to reshape this into an X. Basically, you need 4 branches coming off like so, and I realize it was sloppy. I did a sloppy job making it. We're going to put that so that it's across from those 2 points. So this should come down, and it should almost look like this side here. We have it like that. It should almost look like that side continues on out this side. So but a little further out. Let's pull this down like so. Pull this down and around. I highly recommend doing a better job than I did making this. I got sloppy, wasn't focused, and made a boo-boo. Good thing the captain's not aware. This would have been a terrible treasure map if I hadn't. Alright, so there we go. We can pull this around. It's good roto skills anyway. Bring these handles in. Alright, so there we go. And we wind up with something that looks sort of like that. Doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to look like a pirate X. And this adds a little bit of hand-drawn element to it as well. Let's pull this out a little bit, shrink it, and there we go. Doesn't need to be perfect. It's good. It adds it makes it more flavorful if it isn't perfect. All right, so we're not seeing it again. Now, with the Roto, one of the things that that doesn't happen with the Roto Paint, one of the things, if we look up here, whoops, if we go over to our General tab, on the Roto Paint, the RGB channels are automatically selected. With the Roto node, on the other hand, only the alpha is selected. So we have to actually enable the RG and the B. And now what we're going to do is, for right now, because I want to try and keep things as simple as possible, we're going to do a merge off of the Roto node or the Roto Paint node and put in our Roto on top of it, like so. All right. And if we need to, all right, if we need to, we can use one of these two roads over here or road smooths potentially with this on top of it to affect it. But I don't think whoops, you can already see, we can already see we don't really need it. Oh, I was trying to adjust this. There we go. Oh, come on. There we go. All right, so there's a Roto, snap that in, so it's nice, it's coming in, it's merging with the path so that the two come in together into this. And there we go, that gets that. So we can see at this point, we don't need to do more. We've already got it, it's looking good, or at least it should. When we hide the overlays, we get a nice X here, it's eating into it, it gives us a good X look there. The big problem we run into, and I like its I like it for the most part. Let's go out and make sure it's lining up. Okay, this is what the problem was, is that we have this problem that the Roto isn't in the right place. That's okay. This is actually good exercise. Don't move your Roto. Just accept that that's where the rotor is going to be, or that's where the center point of the rotor is going to be. And because we're going to actually use this is exactly how we're going to do other things to this in the future. What we're going to do is put a transform underneath this, all right, underneath that Roto. And if we show hide overlays, there we go. We can see that when I put that transform over this, what it did is it centered it, because we don't have a background going into this Roto, this X that we made. If we look over here, its ROD, or its bounding box, is only as big as the X, because we didn't actually run the constant into it yet. And I intentionally didn't do it because it allows me to use its bounding box to center this transform. All right. So if we go back over here to our end, now I can take that transform, even though we're way off over here, and I can reposition the entire X to right here, right where I want it to be. And most people, and this is one of the big things, if you draw something with a Roto node and you don't have to move the points, in my opinion, avoid moving points like the plague with a Roto node. They should only time you should ever do it is if you actually want to change the shape. If you need to morph the shape, then, or in some way, either animate the stroke or pull the points around, then you pull those points. If you're just doing things like changing it, making it bigger or smaller, or even certain types of deformations, don't actually pull your points around doing the deformation. See if there's a better way of doing it. Do it with a deformation or some form of after deformation, and we're going to do that in a minute. So here we go. We repositioned this. It's looking a little bit hard to me. Especially compared to everything else around it. This is just looking way harder in its texture than the rest of it. All right, one of the things we can do is, I think we can, no, we don't want to, This is a tricky issue here, because the problem I think we're going to just soften up the edge a little bit, of the Roto. In fact, yeah, we're going to just take this Bezier and we're going to go to the shape and we're going to feather it a bit. We're going to bring it up so that it's a lot more like the other, and we're going to erode into this just like the other. We're going to copy this erode up to here. We're going to put that erode into it. So I'm using the erode that we did for the roto paints over here, and I'm using the same one on this so that it eats into it about approximately the same size. That way, let's look at what that did. All right, so I took this, when we put the softness onto it, and oh boy, that looks awful here, but I really don't like the way that looks. Fortunately, I don't think it shows up when we actually get down to, wow, that is really hideous. But it's not showing up over here all that much. Oh, you know what? I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like ugly things. Or we're going to reset this back to its default. And what we're going to do is instead, we're going to do a blur instead. Let's go back over here and let's look at the road. All right. So this is after we've eroded it. That's what it starts at. This is what it erodes to. And what we're going to do instead of feathering it is we're going to blur it. We're going to hit tab, put a blur in. Because that was just ugly. And sometimes if your roto doesn't soften nicely the way you expect it, blur it. So we're looking at it, by the way, see how we're looking at this through the roto node? So I'm actually seeing, through the erode. We were looking at it past the point of the roto. I'm looking at it at the viewer is connected up to this erode right here. And we have the blur coming down. So here's it at its actual size. We're blurring it out from there, and then we're eroding it in. But by looking at it at the erode point, what I was able to do is use the curve as my reference for how far out I wanted this blur to go. So I only want the blur to go out 8, which gets it out to the point that it looks good. And hopefully now if we show hide, it looks good, and we have a little bit of a blurby going on in there, and it looks good. I think that looks good. It looks better than it did. Let's go back here, and there we go. That looks a lot better to me. We get the nice edge around the sides. It's looking much more like what the other ones do, and it fits into the whole scene a little bit better. All right, so there we go. And so now we've transformed it. We've done everything. Everything's good. We've eroded it, and now we can take this and we can animate it. So how are we going to animate it? Well, what we want to do is we want to go back here to, let me see when I animated it on mine. I need to first of all find the X. Don't want to show too much about what's going. What is this? Okay, that's the X. All right, so this is the transform. There we go. All right. So, all right. So what we're going to do is over here, we're going to select the transform, and we're going to go to frame 169, which is where it is. I just, we can see it's 169. We're going to take, and we're going to put a keyframe on this transform node's scale. What the heck did I just do? Whoa, that just went all wonky and zoomed all around. Sorry about that. We're going to take this. We're going to put a key, and we're going to set it to 0. And then I went out how many frames? I think I only went out about 5 frames. Right. So 5 frames out. We're going to set 5 frames, and what we're going to do is set the scale to 1.5. We're going to make it go up to 1.5 so it overshoots, so it's bigger than the actual spot it's going to lie on. And then we're going to go ahead another, I think, did I go 5 frames? Let me just, that is not 5 frames. Let me go to, just look at this. All right, I went out to frame. You know what I did? Just looking at this. All right, let me just see something here. I'm going to go back here. And I'm going to set this to 24 frames, and I'm going to hit forward, and I just want to see if this goes where I think it does. Interesting. It did not. Oh, wait a minute. Huh. All right. Well, we're going to go back one frame. I did, according to this, I get at frame 192, we are going to set a key, all dimensions, but we're going to set it back to 1. All right. So what this is going to do is we're going to be creating what's called an oscillation. We're going to make it so it pops out. It's going to get bigger. It's going to go from a small size or from nothing to a big size, and then it's going to shrink and kind of bobble back and forth until it gets back to nothing. So here we can see our where we're at. And so what I want to do, let me get to where we want our next frame to be. So 69, 74, and the next one's going to be at 182. So we're going to just go back. Aha, at 192, what I probably did is set it to 10 frames. Oh, wait a minute. What just happened? Oh, 10 frames. Make sure you keep your mouse over it. When you move your mouse around, if you move it away, it will unselect that area. So we go back to 182. Frame 182, we're going to add a key. Set a key, all dimensions. And we're going to just go in here and we're going to pull this down. Make this ring. Actually, oh, foo. We're going to just set both to the same size. We're going to bring this down to, I don't know, we're going to bring it down to 0.8. That's good enough. 0.82. 0.83. There was a weird glitch going on at 0.82 at the top. I don't want. All right, we're going to go 0.82. And then we're going to go forward. Let's see. Halfway between, I think, which should be, just going to try and get approximately halfway between these two, which is 187. Good. That's where I thought it was going to be. And we're going to go slightly above 1. Not, nope, too far. We're going to go down like so. And I think we're going to, yeah, let me just double check my curve editor over here. Yeah. All right, so we're going to select this, and then on this point, we're going to just select this last point here, and we're going to right click on it, and we're going to change it to interpolation to horizontal interpolation. Is that showing up? Good. My face is not covering it up, and that will give us our thing. So let's look at this. Let's go here. Let's hit F, fit it. So we're going to just back it up here to just before it. So we can hit, whoops, we can hit play, and we can see that's what it's going to do. Now, those little glitches we're seeing are actually just, those are not going to actually show up in the final animation. That's just a glitch due to, it's a refresh glitch. So I'm not worried about it. All right, it's due to the size of it. All right, so that's what our animation looks like. When we put it over, we can see it with the path. If we rewind, we can play our path. And when it all gets put together, we don't need to see it in our final comp to view it. What we're doing is we're looking at it here, just the branch where these two areas merge together, so we can see that. And I'm looking at the time, and we didn't have time. We're running a lot longer than I'd hoped, but we've run to the point where we can get that. I actually think, I think I might position it a little further out. I want to, Let's show hide overlays for a minute and pull that just a little bit further out so it feels more like the gap between this last point and this is about the distance. The center point of it is about the distance of one of these, and that should fix it. And that's one of the other reasons that we use, if we had animated the actual points, you'll notice that didn't change anything because it's not animated, and we didn't change anything regarding the rotoscope. That's not animated. We did all the animation with something outside of it. It's way smarter to do. You could do this with a SV or with an SVG or something along those lines. The beauty of using the rotoscope, however, is that the rotoscope inside of Natron is this is completely vector based. So one of the nice parts about that, what does that actually means, just to all right, I'm gonna just for the moment create another transform node off to the side over here so we can just for a second look at what that actually means. What that really means, the nice part about it being vector, if I can hope this works, I think it will. Not positive. Oh, apparently I'm a fibber. All right, I was hoping that we could maybe, well, what we could have done is we could go back to the first frame, and if we really wanted to, we could have modified our rotoscope and made it really large first so that our roto is bigger than what we needed, and then we could have shrunk it down with a transform. So you know, we could actually do that right now. I could literally take this, and that way I could make multiple size things. And I don't actually have to change my roto. It's a lot like an internal SVG, with the advantage that the roto has. The big advantage to the roto is we can actually animate those curves over time. But anyway, I didn't want to do that to the main branch just in case, because we already have it animated and everything. So that pretty much brings us up, and why did that was weird. All right. So this is what we have. Let's focus on this. Focus, make sure we're looking at this at the right time. We're going to call these, we're going to make a, just before we close this off today, we're going to just add in here, these are going to be the, this is going to be the path and so forth. Now, I said that I wanted to put some bubbles in here. We'll start doing the bubbles in the next one. It's not a big deal. I'm not rushing this. This took way longer than I expected. Probably because I rambled on at the beginning. I tend to ramble. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Hold the phone. I hope this is going. I just realized my controller had knocked out. Hope this is still going. Everything looks good here. All right. We're gonna just right, add a backdrop quickly. Tab. Backdrop. Again, so that next time we come into this organized, we're gonna hold down Control because I don't trust that. We're gonna go up like this. You know what? I think I want to. I'm going to delete this point here, pull this down. I don't want to get this constant here into this. Oh, actually, I do want that constant. Do I? Yes. No. I want that constant for some other things too. So the one thing we do want to do, though, is we do want to throw our background now. Now that this has been made, we want to have the first background of the roto go into here. Note, however, if once we've done this, this transform is going to retain its original position relative to the roto. But if we were to go back to this transform and hit this reset center, you'll notice the center is now offset from where it was. Before, when it was not connected to the constant, these were at 0, 0. Now, once we connected to the constant, it automatically, Natron automatically offset those dynamically so that this retains its relative position. But if we actually go back and look at this, you can see that now our ROD for this entire thing is the size of a constant, and we want to do that. That's very important to keep it there. It's important for this to again, if we resize everything, that will dictate resizing things for cropping purposes at another point. We're not going to do that at this point, but we might do something with that in the future. All right, I just want to make sure that constant's there, that's feeding in. That constant is going to be used for all of any other bits that we put in, so I'm not going to consider that part of the path. We're going to just highlight these bits here. Let's put that over like that. I'm going to hold down Control, get that nice and lined up, sort of nicely like so. And then we're going to pull this back a little bit, like so. Get it nice and pretty. There we go. Call this. It's going to be. This is going to be. We're going to call it treasure path. And make sure it says treasure path 1. There we go. That way we know it, and we'll give it a nice path color or a nice color. We'll give it a. It's too bright. There we go. Nice orangey color. So that's our path, and I think that's it. Let's go back and make sure we pick up where we left off. We want to have it at the end. Let's focus on that. It's a lot cleaner. This is a lot clearer. Let's look at this full size. Hopefully this will refresh. Oops, we're looking at the blue channel for whatever reason. There we go. Let's hide our overlays for the moment. And this is what it's going to look like. This is going to be a lot sharper looking and cleaner looking than it looked on the other one. Everything should come in, and we should wind up with, if we were to animate this, the only thing we haven't done is we have not animated the words treasure map. And there's a reason I didn't do that. And we will see that in the future when we actually get, because we're going to actually break apart the letters and do those differently. But because as I say, this is not, we're going to be taking this a lot further. I want to keep this going for a while. Anyway, so we've got something here. The one thing I will say is I think while our treasure map is coming in dark, I'm not sure that I have the same thing going on here. Is that actually... No, it definitely is. Yes, good. These are all coming in together. That's right. So we are getting a little bit of the background blending through. I was like worried. I can see it right here. There's just a dark, just ever so. It's hard to tell. It's how subtle it is. But believe it or not, our eyes actually own certain situations. Some people's monitors will show that. So it's important. It just adds a little bit. It makes it look, this black look a little softer. All right. So, right. Oops. I'm not over in the right spot. So, today's goal was... And I think we did that, except for of course, the text. But, yeah, thanks for watching and keep on Natroning.